Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. Real quick, before I get into the topic of today's video, I just want to say the channel has been growing quite a bit since just over the past month with all the Pacers videos and stuff like that. Like, some of the videos that I didn't expect to blow up, blew up. You know what I'm saying? Like videos that shouldn't have gotten a lot of views, got a lot of views. Like Kevin Durant forcing his way to Indiana, just like a speculative video. Like that got like over 1,000 views somehow, some way. But I do want to talk about the Paul George rumors. And a couple other things. Pascal Siakam is supposed to make his debut tonight for the Pacers against Portland. And there's rumors Tyrese Haliburton could play too. It's less likely than a lot of people are admitting, but he practiced in Sacramento yesterday. So they're saying that it's less likely that Tyrese Haliburton plays, but Siakam is definitely going to play. So we have that to look forward to tonight. But I want to talk about the Paul George rumors because now everybody, like, we've seen the stuff come out on Twitter that, first it was the Pacers front office was basically monitoring the Paul George situation. Like, is he going to sign an extension and all this other stuff? He does turn 34 years old in May. That I think is pretty important to bring up here because they just signed Kawhi Leonard, the Los Angeles Clippers. They just signed Kawhi Leonard to a 3-year, $152 million deal. And rumors are that it's expected that they're going to offer the same thing to Paul George. I don't know why they would fucking do that. I'm just going to say that because, like, he'll be 37 by the time that contract is over, and this is a team that's already in salary cap space hell. So, like, really, like, I saw somebody coin the term, I think it was Michael Wilbon the other day, that, like, the Los Angeles Clippers are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. Like, that you shouldn't have any faith in them. Like, they're frauds. They're going to choke, or, they just give everyone false hope. And I kind of have to agree with that. The Paul George situation is interesting, right? And the reason I say that is because Paul George is originally, like, he was drafted by the Pacers, and the last time we made the Eastern Conference Finals was when he was, like, the guy. You know what I'm saying? And he's also, like, we saw another report come out that, like, Tyrese Haliburton and Paul George were intrigued on playing together in Indiana. And now that we got Pascal Siakam, it's much less likely that we pick up Paul George, and I'm gonna explain why. The soft cap is $142 million, right? We just traded for Pascal Siakam. And as much as I would love to have Paul George on the team, because Paul George, he's one of the best two-way players in the game. Everybody keeps saying, like, his best years are behind him and all this other shit. And, like, I don't know if his best years are behind him. It's the idea that he's simply just getting older. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still a good player. He's still one of the best two-way players in the league at 33 years old, going to be 34 in May. But the thing is, I think it would be a huge mistake for the Clippers to offer Paul George a 3-year, $152 million deal when, you're essentially locking yourself into this again, right? You have James Harden, who you have to bring back, and it's like the question starts to begin with, like, how the fuck are they going to put any talent around these three guys, right? Like, they would have to get people to come back for next to fucking nothing in order for them to continue to go on this championship run aspiration that they have. So let's just say hypothetically, right? Like, honestly, in reality, a Paul George trade to Indiana is not possible. I'm just telling you right now, it's not possible without including Miles Turner. You simply can't do it now that we've done the Pascal Siakam trade. You would have to include, like, Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, or, like, even if you tried to go the route of trading TJ McConnell, Buddy Hield, and, like, an Obi Toppin, it's not going to happen. Like, you're still nowhere near what Paul George gets paid. He gets paid almost $50 million, $47 million, okay? So, like, Paul George has a really, really big contract to take on, and we simply don't have the contracts to make it work. So, trading for Paul George is out of the question, right? But then there comes everyone's begging the question, right? Like, say he declines his contract extension in Los Angeles. Like, let's just say they can't get a deal done, right? And Paul George simply doesn't want to go back. Then, they trade him somewhere, and then he doesn't sign an extension to whatever team he is fucking traded to. Let's just say that, right? Like, let's just say he does a Pascal Siakam and says, I will only resign with, like, the Indiana Pacers. That's the only team I will resign with, right? And then they trade him somewhere, and he just tanks his fucking trade value like he did the first time. And then he wants to come to Indiana. There's a lot of guys we would have to move off of in order to make that work. Like right now, with the way the roster is heading into next season, we're looking at about, I think, $129 million in soft cap room. And really, the thing is, though, like, in order for all this to work, in order for Paul George to actually have the ability to sign with Indiana in the offseason as an unrestricted free agent, Pascal Siakam would have to take significantly less money than what he's expected to make. Okay? Like, we were talking, $247 million over 5 years. We're talking he would have to take, like, 4 years, $120 million. He would have to take, like, a Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson contract. And I would argue that's probably what he's worth. Like, I'm just going to call it what it is. Like, to keep Pascal Siakam, we're going to significantly overpay for him. I just want you all to know that and be ready for that, okay? Like, this is a guy who's going to make Karl Anthony Towns money, okay? Like, I just want you all to know that. But fact of the matter is his numbers are probably going to get in the 30-point-per-game category now that he's playing with Tyrese Haliburton. So the contract at the moment of the signing might not seem justified, or at least right now it might not seem justified, like with that figure going around. But if he starts putting up 28, 30 points a game and averaging like 7 or 8 rebounds a game and 4 or 5 assists, and he's locked down on defense, then it's going to be hard to argue that he's not worth that money. So that's the first thing, right? And I understand also, like, you normally don't pay that type of money to somebody unless they're like a bona fide, like, guy to get you to the playoff, like a LeBron James, Stephen Curry level guy. And we know Siakam is not that, but with Tyrese Haliburton there, like, you almost have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta sign Siakam to some type of extension. But that would be the first piece, is he would have to just take significantly less money than he's expected to make. The second thing here is we would have to let Jalen Smith go. We would have to find a trade suitor for TJ McConnell to free up more cap space because he's making $9.3 million next year. We would have to find somebody who will take him and give us back a contract that's maybe $3 or $4 million at the minimal. Unless you can find somebody that will take TJ McConnell's cap room entirely and just give us like cash considerations or a draft pick or something. That's another possibility. Buddy Hield, Obi Toppin would not be coming back. So I think you get where I'm going with this. Like, we would basically have to blow up the fucking roster if we want to sign Paul George outright. And I'm not even talking to a big contract. I'm talking like, 2 years, $50 million. You know what I'm saying? Because we would, honestly, but like with Hallie's contract kicking in next year and whatever we resign Siakam to, like, you're looking at like probably $80 or $90 million just between the two of them. And then plus guys on top of that you have to bring back. Obviously, we pick up the team option on Benedict Mathurin. Andrew Nembhard would still be on the roster, so getting rid of TJ McConnell is maybe not the worst thing in the world, but it's something you really don't want to do as the Pacers. And honestly, like, I kind of doubt the front office is going to blow up what we got. I would like to bring back Jalen Smith. I have a feeling he's going to decline his player option for I think it's like $5.4 million or something like that. He's worth way more than whatever the fuck he's getting paid right now. So expect Jalen Smith to decline that option and then, either re-sign with us for more money or go someplace else. Obviously I'd like to retain Jalen Smith, but there's no guarantees on that. Also, like, Aaron Nesmith's contract extension kicks in next year as well. So, you got a bunch of guys whose contract extensions are kicking in next year, guys who are, guaranteed certain amounts of money. Like, we don't have anybody on the roster who has a partially guaranteed deal. So, I honestly feel like what the front office is going to do is just keep this together. I feel like this is going to be our team for the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe we make some subtle changes every here and there, but I think like the Pascal Siakam trade, I think was the big splash. And we're going to see if Jarris Walker or Benedict Mathurin becomes our two-way small forward. Ben is very good on offense. He's not amazing on defense. Neither is Tyrese, but Tyrese has improved in that category. Jarris Walker's a guy who's all defense and no offense. So even though it sucks that we got to sit here and wait, the only other possibility, the only way we really get Paul George and it doesn't hurt the roster is if he just decides he's going to decline everybody's fucking contract extension and sign with us for the vet minimum or a mile contract, which I just don't see happening. I don't know, but stranger things have happened. You know what I'm saying? I remember DeMarcus Cousins signed with the fucking Warriors years ago to form the best starting five in the NBA, and that didn't really go anywhere, but he signed with the Warriors for a vet minimum deal, and their starting five was Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and DeMarcus Cousins at one point. That roster would have been fucking ridiculous. But it's just the idea, as much as I would love to have Paul George back, you're left with one of two options, right? Either get rid of half your team to bring him in, or don't bring him in at all and keep what you have. And honestly, what we have right now is the best offense in the history of the NBA. And as much as I would love to have Paul George back, even though I think we need a player like Paul George, the fact of the matter is the pickings in the NBA for guys like Paul George is pretty slim. Even if you can find a guy like that, even Dorian Finney-Smith hasn't been the greatest on defense this year. Mikal Bridges is a guy that I expect to be available at the deadline. Honestly, we could trade Buddy Hield and Obi Toppin for him, and I would be perfectly fine with it. But Brooklyn has been reluctant to offer him up in a trade. Last year, they turned down 4 first-round picks for him, supposedly. But Mikal Bridges simply hasn't been the number one guy. Mikal Bridges is a great two-way player, but when it comes to being the number one option for the Brooklyn Nets, he simply hasn't panned out. And, honestly, I feel like Brooklyn would be better off just shopping everybody on their roster that's, over the age of 25. I feel like that would be the smart thing for them to do and do a true rebuild rather than this half-assed retool that they're doing. But honestly, with Buddy and Obi Toppin, Mikal Bridges is way more of a realistic expectation than Paul George is. Even though it would be a great feel-good story and, the idea that you get to put Tyrese Haliburton, Paul George, and Pascal Siakam all together on the same team, and then you have a bench unit of TJ McConnell, Ben Mathurin, Jalen Smith, Ben Shepherd, maybe Buddy Hield, I don't know, but it's just the idea. I don't think the Pacers are also done making moves. There's a lot of guys in the NBA with a contract in the range of $25 to $30 million that I think they could move Obi Toppin and Buddy Hield for and get a Chris Middleton, a Mikal Bridges, a DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan would be interesting because Siakam's played with him before, and Siakam really wants to play with Miles, so the Miles Turner trade thing I think is over. Miles isn't getting traded this year, but at the end of next year we're gonna have to re-sign Miles too. So that's why I just don't think Paul George is gonna come to Indiana. It kind of doesn't make sense either. As great as a player as he is, unless we can get him on the fucking bargain deal of a lifetime in unrestricted free agency, I just don't see it happening. However, with that being said, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Paul George would maybe take a lot less money for an opportunity to win a ring here with Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam with the roster that we have assembled. Paul George has made his money. Let's call it what it is, all right? That's the flip side of the coin here is it's the uncanny third option that happens is he turns down $152 million with the Clippers, or it's probably going to be less money, but you get what I'm saying. He turns down that max extension with the Clippers to come here and win. Because he's not going to win in Los Angeles. Let's just call it what the fuck it is. He can go back to the Clippers and be in LA and all that other shit. You're going to get paid a lot of fucking money, but you're not going to win. I'm just going to call it what it is. Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George, while it is proven to be a decent trio, it's not enough to win you a ring. It's just not. Not unless you sucker a bunch of people to come play for the Clippers for significantly less money than what they're worth. And the fact of the matter is, I kind of think Paul George wants to restore the relationship with the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Haliburton has been on his podcast more than any other fucking player in the league. So I see the correlation there, but the thing is, like, it's like you got to pick the lesser of two evils, right? Like, either blow up the roster to get Paul George, or, you know, keep what you have and hope it's enough for you to win a championship. Or that third option is just the idea that maybe on like a 2% chance that it happens, Paul George just doesn't sign a contract extension with anybody. He gets traded to another team, doesn't sign a contract extension with them, and then decides he's going to come to Indy for, you know, pennies on the fucking dollar, which I kind of doubt. You know, the 76ers can offer him more, like the 76ers are going to have cap space. It would make more sense for him to go to the 76ers almost than to come to Indiana, because the 76ers at least will have the cap space to bring him on. We wouldn't. We would have to create cap space. So, you know, like the guys I talked about getting rid of, Jalen Smith, you would have to keep Isaiah Jackson and get rid of Jalen Smith. Like, that's what you would have to do. You would have to find somebody to take TJ McConnell. Siakam would have to sign for a lot less money. Like, I just don't see it all happening. So, unfortunately, as excited as we all got that, you know, Paul George and Tyrese Haliburton would love to play together, and you never know, like, maybe when Paul George is out of his prime or whatever, he comes back to Indy to play with Tyrese Haliburton and Siakam, and maybe he's still got something left in the tank down the road. You know, we're talking when he's like 37, 38, but it's just the idea, like, right now at 33, 34 years old, he's still going to command about $25-30 million a year, maybe even $35 million a year. Like, that's how good of a player Paul George is. He would have to take a significant pay cut to come play in Indy, but he's never won a ring. So, you know, I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but I'm also not super high on it either. Like I said, I think there's like maybe a 2% chance you actually get him. But if Mikal Bridges becomes available and the Nets are like, hey, we're going to blow it up, which they fucking should. If Mikal Bridges becomes available, honestly, get rid of Jalen Smith, okay? Get rid of Buddy Hield, and I don't know. If they want Andrew Nembhard, fucking give them Andrew Nembhard. You know what I'm saying? He's been injured most of the time anyway. But like that, you know, a trio of Tyrese Haliburton, Mikal Bridges, and Pascal Siakam, and you get to keep Miles Turner. You still have, you would still have Isaiah Jackson. You'd still have TJ McConnell. You still got Ben Shepherd. Obi Toppin and Buddy Hield, I think, are done. Like, I like those are like the guys that would have to go in order to get a Mikal Bridges. But I don't know, man. That's just my opinion on it. But there's not a lot of guys out there. Like, the cream of the crop of the guys that are in the $25 to $30 million range are probably Chris Middleton and DeMar DeRozan. Which, honestly, DeRozan doesn't seem like a bad pickup at the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we were to add DeRozan to what we have now with Siakam and Hallie, like, adding DeRozan would be a big deal, but the problem is DeRozan's not a three-point shooter, and Pascal Siakam does a lot of his damage from the mid-range. So, you know, inside the paint and working around, you'd have, you know, Miles Turner's going to officially be a 3-and-D guy at this point, I think. So, I don't know. Pascal Siakam really wants to play with Miles Turner, and the only way to even trade for Paul George is if you include Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. So, I don't think we're trading for him either. So, tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. And I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.